Hello and welcome to today's Just Chopsing Podcast. With David and myself, we have Lance Lopez. How are you doing, Lance? You are a blues rock musician, I believe.
That's correct. That's correct. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's our pleasure, actually.
Thank you.
We got another. I was watching your stuff earlier on YouTube, and you're a bit of a great guitar player. So.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I really appreciate that.
Probably another one of these underrated guys. I mean, we had another underrated guy on a few weeks ago in the form of Doug Aldrich.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Doug's one of my most favorite guy. What a great guitarist.
Yeah. Well, you ain't too bad yourself, mate.
Oh well, cheers, man. Thank you, thank you. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
So I was reading a bit of your bio, and you've been a professional musician since you were 14.
That's correct. Yeah, that's when I think I started to actually receive money to play live. So okay. I think I was 14. Yeah. We had played some gigs and some parties and a couple of things here and there, but I really started to go out and work in bands when I lived with my dad in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I moved down to New Orleans with my father, and he started to take me out to all the bars and the clubs and in and around New Orleans, at that time. Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was a kid, I used to go carol singing.
Right.
Because now it's Christmas. We're around Christmas time. So when I was a kid, I used to go carol singing. I must have only been about 12 or 13. And they used to give me money when I used to knock on the door. So was I a professional carol singer at 12 or 13?
No, that was because your mum had gone round before you to give them all money to give to you. My mum did the same.
They went round before us.
That's it.
Right. I would have just taken shortbread. You could have just given me shortbread and I would have
gone. Yeah, not too fussed on mince pies.
All right. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So how when you actually started playing guitar then?
I guess I was maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
When I got my actual first guitar and began playing, I guess I was maybe that age. Started to play guitar. We went to a lot of concerts when I was, a kid. Everybody in town went. We had a Coliseum in town, or like Civic Center or whatever it was. Yeah. We called it Coliseum, and all the kids in the neighborhood and everybody. It was what we did, in the 80s. We saw all the bands, so that's basically how I learned. We went to a concert, and it was general admission, as we would call it, or whatever. There was no reserved seats, so you just fought your way. And we were small kids, so we could fight our way to the front. And we would just fight our way to the front, and I would watch all the great guitar players, and then try to remember what they did, and then go home and try to emulate what I'd go. We saw AC/DC and Van Halen and all those great bands in the 80s, and would go home and try to mimic what we saw them do that night.
Well, you must have had a good memory.
I mean, yeah.
Well, you had to, I mean, I think about that all the time because, even like in a mobile phone, on a cell phone, back in those days, we had to remember everybody's phone number. Now I can't remember anyone's phone number.
Yeah.
It's all in the phone, and so memories were much better back.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you've got like YouTube and everything that you can learn off as well now. So, if you did you ever buy the what do you call it, like the music books, and they've got the tab in there? Did you ever get any of those?
We definitely, there was definitely the magazines, that we would get that had tab in the back then, and I definitely would learn that way. But, by the time I figured out how to read tab and tried to sit down and put my fingers where they needed to go on it was just easier for me to listen. And, I learned better by ear,
Yeah. I mean, I'm learning to play by tab, but to be honest, I played more by ear as well. I mean, I look at the tab, but I won't look at my fingers to see where my fingers are going.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's because it's like, well, I know pretty much where the frets are, but I don't necessarily need to look at anything, I think.
Right.
I do sometimes, but, I'm only like 2 years in or something, but it's gonna it's a bit of a struggle when you're older,
Yeah. No, it definitely was for me. It was, and that was in the days of cassettes and vinyl. So there was placing the needle on the right, and you would memorize where the part would be on the grooves, and then there was also the rewind and play, and so you knew how long to hold down each button,
Yeah.
So, to learn the part that you had to learn, and so once when we had the luxury of going and seeing the guys live, and it was whatever we'd had to do in the neighborhood, whether it was whatever work we had to do for mowing lawns, cutting grass, to earn the money, and I think about it now. I remember asking for the first concert I saw, I remember asking my mother for $13 to buy a ticket to see Kiss. Okay. And my mother was like, oh my God, that was the most money anyone had ever heard of for a concert ticket. And it's it's crazy now, it's just the ticket prices and what people pay to go to concerts, and, but I was lucky enough that I always figured it out somehow, some way to go. And that's so to put the visuals together, to go see the actual guitar player play the part and then come home and try to learn it was one thing. And then, of course, there was the guys that we couldn't see, that I was mainly learning from, like, all of the Zeppelin records, or, Hendrix or Cream, or, any of that stuff, which now I think young guitar players, have YouTube that's just kind of, it's just such a luxury. They don't, I feel I sound like the old guy now. I'm like, they don't appreciate, YouTube, because, like when I was a kid, if we could have pulled up Jimi Hendrix in 1968 and just dialed it up on our laptop, it'd have been like, I mean, that was just the most amazing. We had to use our imaginations, there wasn't that much footage available in the 80s of all that stuff. So you had to actually go live and see the person playing.
Yeah. But luckily, VHS sprung up as well.
Right.
So you got plenty of old videotapes, and
right.
I don't know if you had a video recorder.
Oh, we definitely did. That was, and there was guys that had bootleg VHS. I remember that, and a lot of the footage would circulate around, and that was like, finding the lost ark. When you'd have a guy that would have all the bootlegs of the Hendrix footage or any of that old footage, it was just like, oh my, I can remember one guy in particular that had that, we would go over to his house and just watch hours of footage. And it was just mind blowing because, we listened to those records for years and, there wasn't much footage available, So now with YouTube, man, what a beautiful thing that it is all available now. And young guitar player. And I think that's why the musicians are getting better and better the younger they are, because they just have so much more accessibility than all of us had,
Yeah. Well, they've even got these like games on the PlayStation where you plug your guitar in and stuff now, haven't they?
Right. Guitar Hero. Yeah.
Yeah, but they've got it with a real guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Rocksmith is called.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you plug a real guitar into the PlayStation, and then you can learn how to play guitar on the. If you see, there's a couple of young Japanese girls that do it. I mean, I think the one young girl plays the bass, and the other one plays lead guitar, and they're just like shred masters.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't know that. I've not seen that one.
No, you haven't seen it? Oh, yeah, you should look it up. It's look at a video on YouTube.
Okay. Back to the YouTube we go.
I think that's where I went wrong. I started playing Guitar Hero, and then I decided to try learn guitar. I'm much better at Guitar Hero than I'm ever going to be on the guitar.
Well, real guitar players can't play Guitar Hero. That's what's funny.
That's what my father said. My dad come over. He's a pretty good guitarist, and he was like, "It makes sense to him."
Wow. Yeah, it's weird.
Wow. Yeah. I know. I tried to play with my kids. I tried to play Guitar Hero, and I was just like, this is nothing like playing guitar.
Yeah.
And one of the most funny things, I think they had Mississippi Queen on one of the games, and they actually had Leslie West. There's a video of Leslie West somewhere trying to play his own song and couldn't do it. So it's like I didn't feel so bad. I didn't feel so bad.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of. Oh, sorry.
Go on,
I was just going to say you mentioned a lot of great artists there. So when you were growing up, then as a kid, who were your main inspirations?
Oh, I mean, there were many, but I think the one that really kind of changed it all for me was Jimi Hendrix. As a child, that was he had the most impact, I think, of any, especially as a guitar player. I think hearing Hendrix for the first time really was the guitar player that really just turned my world upside down, And I had already seen Eddie Van Halen play, who at that time was deemed the world's great. He was the top of the, and I had seen him live, and it was incredible. I mean, to be able to witness what Eddie Van Halen did, when I was a child was incredible. But hearing, there was something that resonated that was just totally otherworldly, very spiritual with Hendrix, that was just this whole complete different thing. And so, I mean, when I first heard Hendrix, I thought that I heard Are You Experienced somewhere in the mid 80s. And I thought the album was brand new. I thought it was a brand new record that my brother had brought home. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. I can't wait to go see him live. And they were like, man, he's been dead a long, long time. Yeah. So it was just that mind blowing that I'd heard Jimi Hendrix and thought it was brand new music, in the 80s. And so, that he had the most impact of like setting the bar. And then there were so many, heroes as a child. Angus Young. All the blues-based guitar players were my hero, and I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't know that, but all the guys that were more blues-based, and most of the kids that I grew up with were all following the guitar players that were trying to emulate Eddie Van Halen. They were all in the 80s, were very much into the shredding style, Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, the shredding style guitar. And I was into more of the blues-based players like Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton and Angus Young and all of from like the generation before, and not understanding that they were blues players. that I would eventually gravitate to the blues, and that would be the basis for what I would do. But I just knew that I connected with that more. And Hendrix. I mean, everything that Hendrix did was based on the blues. So I always gravitated more towards all the blues-based players, Alvin Lee, Jimmy Page, Hendrix, those guys.
Yeah. Well, I see you started with, you say you started young, and you started then with Johnny Taylor, and you ended up with Buddy Miles. You were in the Buddy Miles band? Right.
Yeah. So we moved back. I'd played in various bands all over New Orleans, backing up artists, and we'd moved around the Gulf Coast a lot, and I'd played in different bands around, and we ended up back, and it was in playing in high school. Like I'd play in punk bands and metal bands and with kids at school, but I would always get pulled into, adult bands and be playing in clubs and earning a living. And all the kids at school always, they were always kind of mad at me for it because I worked professionally, and I would start a band, playing in a metal band or a punk band, and just for fun to play with kids at school, and would end up, working, professionally, and would have to leave their band. And so when we moved back to Dallas, I immediately, upon moving back, I went out to sit at a blues club and was immediately hired to go on the road with Johnny Taylor. Like 3 days later, I was on a tour bus, and my dad thought it was my dad really pushed me. My father was He pushed me immensely in my music. He totally supported it. And he really supported the fact that he wanted me to go out, and he didn't really create this world of, you know, I'm an artist and I'm a little star. He really wanted me to go play and work for other musicians and kind of work my way up the ranks and get an education as a musician. You know, he never really coddled me like I saw, like some guys I grew up with and other artists I saw, where they were kind of, you know, the star only and they were pushed their career. He was very much in support of me going out and working for other great artists. And so going out with Johnny Taylor, I ended up backing many, many artists like Bobby Blue Bland and Al Green and Johnny Guitar Watson, Little Milton, a lot of really iconic O.V. Wright. Just all these great soul singers and iconic musicians along the way while I was working with Johnny Taylor. And, you know, and eventually I went, you know, to Lucky Peterson, and then wound up, you know, with out Lucky for years when I first started touring internationally. I met Buddy Miles on a gig in Belgium and at a festival. And it was one of the most crazy. I met Peter Green that day also too. I don't think Peter Green really knew I was even there, but it was what a monumental experience it was to be able to just be in the presence of Peter Green. That was one of the greatest moments of my life, you know. But what a crazy festival that year at the I think it was the Belgium Rhythm and Blues Festival in Pierre, Belgium. I met Peter Green that weekend, Buddy that weekend, Bo Diddley. Got a guitar lesson from Bo Diddley in the lobby. It was crazy. But anyway, yeah, so and working with Buddy was great. I mean, you know, which then opened the door to the rest of the musicians that worked with Jimi Hendrix. So I ended up in that same circle of people. And I'd already had kind of been working with Johnny Taylor on what they call the Chitlin circuit that Jimi Hendrix also worked when he was, before he came over there and became Jimi Hendrix Experience. Yeah. A lot of those guys were still on that circuit, so it was pretty crazy. Yeah. So yeah, it was an incredible education musically.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I read on your bio, and then it said you had some late nights, if you like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The partying was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, that whole world was crazy. And, you know, I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, a lot of those guys sadly all passed away, you know, majority of them due to lifestyle stuff. And, you know, and that was the thing. I wanted to sound like those guys and play like those guys and especially sing like those guys, you know, playing with you know, all black groups and R&B groups and them being the real deal guys. You know, I definitely wanted to sound like them, sing like them, play like them. So I did everything else they did too, you know, and that was the thing, you know, to hang and to be a part of. So, you know, it got, you know, as you can imagine, as it always does, got pretty crazy.
Yeah. I bet, especially going through the 80s and the 90s, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me at that time, it was definitely the 90s. It was mid late 90s at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. But so are you sober now, or?
Yeah. So, man, I just, you know, 3 years. Here we are, 3 years later. I came to Nashville. I struggled with it for years, sobriety. You know, and it was a thing that I knew, like I said, by being out with a lot of those musicians, I just wanted to keep up, you know, and I wanted to hang with a lot of the old blues guys and the legendary guys. And, you know, and especially, and I really cried, and God bless his soul, but it really crossed the line with Buddy, you know, and Buddy was still kind of doing the same things that him and Jimi Hendrix had done, you know, 30 years before, you know, 25 years before, whatever it was. And I really think about it now, and it really wasn't that long ago that he and Hendrix had been together at that time. You know, I think about it now, and I'm like, the amount of time when I was playing with Buddy Miles and hanging out with Mitch Mitchell and Billy Cox and all those guys was the amount of time that it was then to now, you know, the 90s. So it wasn't that long ago, you know, and and so therefore it was like, I wanted to do what they did. And, sadly, Buddy didn't survive. Hendrix definitely didn't survive back then. and everybody else. So, and I walked away from it with a problem. I walked away from it with like, this has turned into, something really severe. So it took many years of trying to get on top of it. And I had, I would try for a while and do pretty good and fall off again. And my priorities would get, skewed.
Yeah.
I would get busy on the road and stop taking care of myself, and or even my family, my family or my job or whatever would get, would take priority. And then the next thing I would fall off again. So that was the whole basis of me moving to Nashville, and I had my last kind of debacle was about 4 months due to I have some severe back pain.
Okay.
So I had been doing pretty good for a couple of years, and I've got some chronic pain issues with my back, getting older, the whole thing. And I had a tour manager with me that, had pain medicine and unknowingly just said, here, take these pain pills. And they were opiate, narcotic. And then it was over, I can't, and I work with doctors now, like if I have to, and I'm on a lot of other different medications that are non-narcotic, but, I've had to work real close with doctors and recovery people that if I do have to take it, it has to be very controlled, and, but just not on a whim like that. Not somebody, here's 2 pain pills.
Yeah.
And it just set the ball rolling. That was just horrible. And, so 4 months of hell, it just, and then once that door was open, just everything came in, and just, so it was 4 months of hell, man. And so I came back to Nashville and I just totally stepped away and focused on, okay, what do we need to do to get better and stay better? And I didn't even play music. I didn't even think about music. I actually went to work in a drug rehab. Here in Nashville. I actually went to work in a rehab and did that for quite some time before I just wanted to make sure that, hey, we're going to be okay. That I needed to get sobriety, together and make sure that it was going to last and really dig in deep and make sure that, we were going to be okay this time,
I was going to say,
so here we are today.
Is it true you can get the best gear in the drug rehab center?
Probably. Probably. Nobody ever gave me any good gear, but oh man, but yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, I was looking through again. I mean, I've been looking through your bio all day, but 2014, you joined the Supersonic Blues Machine then?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, early on, I actually I began working with Fabrizio Grossi on my solo record, Tell the Truth.
Yeah.
And through the middle of doing that, it was all really skewed for me too, because I was like unsure what was Supersonic and what was my record. I was like totally confused as to what's going on here. And, and so around the time that the first record was released, I finally got a call from Fabrizio and he said, okay, they're putting this out. It's called Supersonic Blues Machine. You've got an interview tomorrow. Say this, so it was cool. It was cool. And we, and it was all home. Everybody had been friends, when I was there on the ground floor with Supersonic. We, everybody that was involved in the first 2 records, I was, longtime friends with. Especially Billy Gibbons, we had, I'd known Billy since I was 16 years old. So, it was like family. So, it was really cool. Those being a part of those records and the one little handful of shows I did with those guys was cool. Billy and I had talked at that point in time, Billy and I had talked for over 20 years on doing a project together. He had wanted to do something with me since I was 17 years old.
Oh, okay.
And he wanted to produce an album. He wanted to produce my record. He had talked about it for years. And, and that's still not out of the question. We still haven't tabled that, but, this was the opportunity for us to finally work closely like we did together. And while we were out with Supersonic, he then reignited that old conversation again. Hey, I want to produce a record on you. And, and that's where, of course I was working with Fabrizio Grossi at the time and we did the record we did, but, that's still not out of the question. But I was really happy that, I was on some tracks with good friends like Warren Haynes, and which also the same thing too. Warren and I had talked about doing something for years. Eric Gales and I had done many, many projects together. This one, it's like my brother, but Robin Ford, all those other guitar players that showed up on those recordings, Steve Lukather, those are all had been great friends of mine for a long time. So I was glad we finally all were able to work together with Supersonic.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. Because we've spoken to Fab before as well. We had Fab on a couple of months ago, yeah.
Nice.
He was a big part of that Supersonic thing, wasn't he? So. He hasn't long brought out a new album, has he? So.
Right,
Garage or something it's called.
Right, yeah. I think he's got a new project he's working on, and I wish him all the best with that. I did my last show with Supersonic Blues Machine actually in Maidstone at the Ramblin' Man Fair.
Oh, okay.
So we did a handful of dates. So I went out of the band on top. Ramblin' Man Fair with ZZ Top. So, it was my last show that I did with Supersonic. But, I wish those guys all the best. I'm not sure if they're still working with Chris Barris or not, but, all the best to those guys always.
Yeah. Go on then, Dave.
What's that?
Go on then. What have you got for me?
What have I got for you?
Yeah.
The word police? Do you
want nothing is all right. I thought he was going to ask Lance some stuff about his new music, but...
Yeah, so you've got... I've taken a listen to your Tell the Truth album, which I think was your last album release, but I believe you got another one coming out, and you're working with... is it Indiegogo, was it? But to try and get a new album released?
Yeah, so we're... I've been thank you for mentioning that. We... So Tell the Truth was the last record that Fabrizio Grossi and I produced together. And, talking about Supersonic Blues Machine and working with Fabrizio and the last album, the songwriter that we worked with was a guy named Joey Sykes. And so when I moved to Nashville, Joey and I reconnected. He has a lot of connections here, as most of the musicians that played on the last album were here in Nashville. So we used a lot of the musicians were here. So Joey and I then began to work together, and we worked when Fabrizio was producing. Joey was just merely the songwriter. Now Joey is producing and is co-writer. So now Joey Sykes and I are working together, and due to all of his contacts here in Nashville. And so we, with COVID happening, and what is going on with the world, there was so much uncertainty with labels and the uncertainty of what we were going to do with the label, and in this day and age, the labels are pretty much like, make the record, bring it to us, and if we like it, we'll put it out. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of what we deal with, there are no labels that are going, here's all this money, go make a record and take as long as you need, So I saw some really interesting things happening during COVID that artists were doing that were really creative. One of which was the great jazz guitar player, Al Di Meola, was doing some things in his house in New Jersey outside New York, where he was making these giant full course Italian meals, and he was having, friends and fans and whoever else could pay a fee, and they would come to his home and he would make this beautiful meal, and they would have all these wines, and then he would go into his home studio. And I thought, how cool would that be? Because my specialty is like being in Louisiana was Cajun food. and kind of food of the South, And I thought, man, how cool would that be and I was a professional chef at one time years ago, but how cool would that be to be able to do that for fans, to make them a meal and hang out and talk. So that was always in the back of my mind, of course, of other things. So Joey and I began to work on this record, and he mentioned that, that we do a crowdfunded situation, being in the uncertainty of times. And, we actually had thought about doing that with Supersonic Blues Machine at one time too. And it never came to fruition while I was in the band, but we did discuss it. So when it came up this time again, especially during the uncertainty of COVID and all in light of everything that's happened, especially with me, with a reset and focusing on my wellness here in Nashville, that's when the light bulb went off again. And I went, man, I can offer those certain services, like coming and making dinner for someone at their house, playing at their house, and offer that as part of, a crowdfunded situation. And also, have fans and people that believe in the music, like actually tangibly connected to it in a way that gives them ownership as well. Yeah. Because it is such a piece of history, and it's such a grassroots thing what we do, that I thought, how cool would it be to have everybody have their own piece of ownership, because let's face it, like we talked about at the beginning of the interview, call it underrated or obscure or whatever. I mean, I kind of fall into that class. So if you know about me or about my music, you're kind of in that niche. So I think anybody that believes in that and digs hard enough to find me should have ownership in the album and should be able to contribute and be there in a way that gives them more of a tangible piece of ownership to it. So that was one of the things that inspired the fundraiser and the Indiegogo situation.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, quite a few bands are doing some sort of crowdfunding stuff for the new albums.
Right.
In light of COVID. And yeah, I think The Damned, the punk band The Damned?
Right. Oh, of course.
I think they did their last album on a crowdfunding thing, to be honest.
Cool.
That was pretty big. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
It's good like you said, if you can include your fans in it, like to make them feel part of that record.
Right.
I mean, obviously you'll put their names in the sleeves and stuff.
Right.
But if they can get a little bit more of an experience out of it as well, like you said, going and making them dinner and stuff. I mean, yeah, who wouldn't want that as a fan,
Yeah,
right.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do as well.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I mean, we're offering. There's a lot of other things that we're offering too. Is like there's a custom song perk that we have that Joey and I, especially Joey, is being the great songwriter that he is. He's written a lot of songs that have been on big films. He's had a lot of film music and written for a lot of other big artists. And so one of the perks that we also were offering was a custom song that allowed us to write a song. You pick the topic, or if you have lyrics yourself, or you can contribute, we can write a song, and then we give you ownership of that song. Oh, okay. So that if it does get placed or if something does happen with that song, you also, recoup monetarily on that as well. You have ownership in a big way of that material. So that's something that I'd really never seen before done, that we're offering that. So there's a lot of other cool ones aside from, the autographed CDs and the downloads and the thing. There's some really cool ones there, like the house shows and the dinners and that one being one of the most interesting, being that we'd write a song for you and you would own the song. Is
that all on your website then, Lance?
It is. It's on the Indiegogo link for sure, and I think it's the Indiegogo. I think it's the LL New Album Project is what it searches over under Indiegogo.com.
Yeah. I mean, what would be a good idea as well to go with that song then, if you're including fans as writers, if you like, you could actually put them in the video, so they send you a little film clip of themselves
Absolutely.
Singing the song or miming to a guitar part, and
that would be great.
You could include that in the video,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think I'll have to sign up, I think.
Okay.
I'm getting partial to being in videos. David's always in rock videos, so I want my moment.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. I do like that idea. It's a really good idea. I haven't heard
that.
That
is a great idea.
I think it's great. Yeah, it is good.
Yeah.
So
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. All right, well, we do a section. We started a new section last week, and it's called the Word Police.
Okay.
And what we're doing every episode now, we're going to pick a word, because I used to do like these weird news stories, but now we pick a word that's been banned by whoever's been banned by, all these crazy word police that are out there.
Okay.
And my word for the day, well, it's actually 3 words, but my words are dirty old man. And you're not allowed to call anyone a dirty old man anymore because it's sexist and ageist.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, so what would you call him then? A clean, nice young man, or do you know what I mean?
I always thought something else was associated with being a dirty old man, to be honest.
Yeah, I did too.
Because if I got called a dirty old man, I wouldn't worry about somebody call it being ageist and sexist. I'd be worried about something else, if I'm honest.
but to be honest, you could be called a dirty old man in so many different contexts,
Right.
I mean, my girlfriend's 11 years younger than me, so you could call me a dirty old man,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
She's saying yes upstairs.
Oh man.
Beat us to it.
Oh wow! I mean, immediately when you said that, I went, "Am I one?" I was like, "Oh man!"
At what age do you become a dirty old man?
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question in itself.
That's hilarious.
Do you wake up in the morning and you just happen to be one, or is it a gradual change, like puberty?
Yeah, you go from 14 to 20, and then that's all over.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't know.
You graduate to dirty old man status.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative? What calling somebody
a dirty old man? I don't.
What's a nice young man? Isn't it? That's the opposite.
A nice young man, a clean young man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. I refer to a Bob Dylan song where he's a clean cut kid, but I mean that's talking about a college kid. It's not
right.
Not really an older person, is it?
Right.
An unwashed, unkept.
Right. It's funny because I was dating a girl recently, and her mother said that's what she said about me. She got on Facebook and she told her, which obviously that relationship did not pan out, but that's what her mother told her. This Lance Lopez is not a clean cut guy. Sorry, Mom.
No, I'm not going to go there. So you must have plenty of stories from the road then, Lance.
Oh man,
more than you forgot. Was this?
Probably.
Forgotten more than you could remember, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
But have you got any cool ones?
In the era of throwing TVs out of through hotel windows and stuff like that.
Nowadays with these flat screen, it's not fun anymore. They just fall and go pip. There's no shattering or no exploding. It just goes.
They're more like frisbees than anything else.
Yeah, it's no fun anymore with the flat screen. It's not like it used to be. Yeah, no. I mean, oh my God. There's always every trip. There's always those memorable, fun times, that we have, and I have even better now that I'm not like high and drunk, it's so fun because I'm able to really have fun and remember everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like the best fun is just ahead, but yeah, for years there was just, there's always so many characters and so many stories and, so many, so much fun, that we have that there were a lot of bad times too, but there was I like to tend to focus on the good.
Yeah. Who would you say is your most favorite person to play with then? That you actually played with?
The most that I shared, that I shared the bill with was absolutely BB King.
Okay.
BB King was, and Rod Stewart was great to us. Okay, also, right. I opened shows for Rod Stewart, and Rod was ace. I mean, he was a complete gentleman and really was very welcoming and sharing and giving to us. And BB King was also the same way. Those guys were two of the most kind of loving and welcoming kind of guys to have us on the bill. And believe it or not, too, we did shows many years ago. Went out with Def Leppard and Whitesnake, and David Coverdale also was very, very supportive and welcoming, and really loved having us on the stage with them. And so that was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So what a complete gentleman Coverdale is, man, and one of my most favorite singers. And then he just turned out to be just one of the best guys you could ever meet.
Yeah. They're sort of winding down Whitesnake now, I think, aren't they?
I saw that. Yeah, I've seen that recently. Yeah. So
I think his voice is starting to go a little. Well, it's been going a little bit for a while, but
yeah, it has.
It's a shame because he had such a powerful voice as well.
Incredible. And it's just, it's amazing because, and then you look at like Paul Rogers, who's still just incredible, Glenn Hughes, those singers are just amazing. But yeah, it's sad to hear that Whitesnake is winding down and that Coverdale is kind of going through that because he is one of the most sweetest guys ever,
Yeah. All right, mate. So when do you think your new music's coming out?
Well, we're gonna see what this. What we can do with this crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. And we're recording in 2 weeks. We're going to try to finalize some recordings here in Nashville. So hopefully I'd like to see a summer release. Okay. Hopefully by this summer we'll have at least an EP, if not a full-length album out. Cool. Okay, we're looking at trying to release a single in January or the end of January, by the middle of February. Okay. We definitely want to have a single out, but a full length we're looking at, probably by the summer, but single will be coming very, very soon.
Okay. Oh, right, sweet. Yeah.
We'll keep
I'll have a jump on your website and write a song for you.
Absolutely. Please do.
With the pre-recorded
we need all the
video.
help we can.
So I got a question for you then, Lance.
What's that?
Fender or Gibson?
I primarily play Gibson, but I grew up playing Fenders, but I'm a Gibson artist today. So my R959 Les Paul is my go-to guitar. So
nice.
Yeah, the good old Les Paul, the tried and true.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I still try to convince my wife I need a new one. Well, a new old one. That's what I'm after.
If you need
me, 70s.
If you need me to write her a letter, I will.
Yes, please. Definitely.
I will vouch.
I could get.
I will vouch for you on your behalf for the.
Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll definitely need some guitar lessons then.
Yeah, well, there is Zoom, so we can definitely do it.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Do you do anything like that over Zoom, Lance?
Oh, absolutely. I did a lot of it during, that's one of the things I did, during the extreme COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
Was I did a lot of lessons, but I have over the years. I mean, I would do. Zoom has been a great tool now, but before that it was Skype and FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, we did those over Zoom. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, over video chats. Right? Yeah, I did those for quite some time. So, and taught in person lessons for a long time. So, you know, when I have the time and I can, I love to teach. I've worked with a lot of my students are now very successful guitar players that are out doing it. And that's one of the joys of doing it, that I've got a couple of kids and one in particular that's really extremely successful now. And so that's one of the great joys of being a teacher, is to watch the kids, you know, the light bulb come on, them understand the guitar, and then them go out with their own bands and make records and become, you know, successful. So that's the big payoff.
I bet.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I really enjoyed your last album.
Thank you.
Cracking guitarist, mate. You're
thanks,
very,
man.
very modest with the guitar, and your vocals are awesome as well. So once your new album comes out, hopefully you can come back up to the UK once we kick COVID into touch and get to normality, man.
Absolutely. I can't wait to come back, man. I miss it so much over there.
I bet. Yeah.
I miss it.
Yeah, it's the same for everybody, and it's just a mess.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I'm ready to come back and play some blues rock, get a full English, proper cup of tea.
Yeah, and like you said before, you got some lovely Welsh friends sending you food.
We do. Big shout out to Brycey and my good buddy Jay Hamlin. They take care of me. Jay's in London, Brycey's in Cardiff, and they stock me up with brown sauce and Welsh cakes and Glengettie and Yorkshire Gold.
Amazing.
Yeah,
David won't even send me a fucking Kit Kat.
I'm gonna have to do you a parcel tonight.
Wow.
All right,
man.
Mate. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Cheers. I really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure you come back on when you got some music to tell us about.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a blast.
Okay. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Talk soon. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
This is Lance Lopez. We're here with Breed Love Guitars today here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to play some blues right here on the good old concertina. Baby, you take away too